All right, so today we're diving into this whole TikTok situation, this potential merger with Perplexity, and then you've got that like wild offer from Kevin O'Leary, and of course the looming ban over everything. It's a lot to unpack, so hopefully we can kind of make sense of it all for you guys.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, just to start off, it's really put TikTok at like this crossroads and facing this potential ban in the US because of these national security concerns, stemming from their Chinese parent company, ByteDance.
Yeah, and it's not just talk anymore. I mean, we're past that point. Congress actually passed the law banning TikTok, and even the Supreme Court upheld it, citing those national security risks that you mentioned. And it all kind of comes to a head on Sunday. There's this deadline that could seriously change the entire social media landscape as we know it.
For sure, and I think that's why ByteDance is kind of scrambling for solutions. I mean, selling TikTok US outright seemed like the most obvious outcome. But then this AR startup Perplexity comes in with a curveball, a merger.
A merger, right? Not a sale, which I was really surprised by. I mean, Perplexity's only been around for like a year.
Yeah.
But they're already valued at $9 billion, which is insane. So they're proposing to combine forces with TikTok US, and they're going to bring in some new investors along the way.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so interesting, because it could be a win-win for both sides. Like Perplexity on one hand gets to tap into TikTok's massive user base and all that, crazy video content that they have.
And for ByteDance.
Well, instead of just like a complete loss, they get to keep some skin in the game, retain some equity stake in this new entity.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then there's also the potential to like expand Perplexity's reach through video, which could be huge for their AI ambitions.
I mean, think about it. Their AI is built on natural language processing. So if they can integrate that with TikTok's video library, that could totally revolutionize how people search for content.
Oh, for sure.
Like imagine typing in "show me funny dog videos" with 80s music.
Oh.
And the AI like instantly puts together this personalized feed for you.
Exactly. It'd be like having a personal assistant who knows exactly what you want to watch.
Yeah, it'd make content discovery so much more intuitive and fun.
But it's not just for entertainment.
Yeah.
Think about education marketing, even e-commerce. Imagine businesses being able to like target their ads with that level of precision.
I mean, the potential revenue streams are pretty insane.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely a lot to wrap your head around. But it seems like this merger could be a pretty big game changer for both companies. But of course, there are going to be hurdles to overcome.
Oh, for sure. One of the biggest ones is going to be addressing those national security concerns. The ones that sparked this whole thing in the first place.
Right, because it all boils down to that possibility that user data could be accessed by the Chinese government, potentially for surveillance or even propaganda.
Exactly.
Which is obviously a huge problem.
It's a complex issue with huge implications for data privacy and international relations.
So if this merger is going to work, they're going to have to convince regulators that user data will be protected and that there's no undue influence from the Chinese government.
It's a high-stakes game, for sure.
And then you've got this wild card, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful himself, the Shark Tank investor, coming in with a $20 billion cash offer to just buy TikTok outright.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around. He went on Fox Business and just flat out called TikTok a national security risk. He's echoing the fears of a lot of lawmakers and security experts who believe that the app really does pose a threat. So his offer, while it might be a bit of a publicity stunt, it definitely highlights how high the stakes are.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It definitely adds another layer of complexity to this whole thing. So we've got this looming ban, a potential merger with an AI startup.
Yeah.
And a hefty cash offer from this like high-profile investor. It's a lot to process.
And on top of that, you've got the White House saying that President Biden won't enforce the ban. But then President-elect Trump might call for a 90-day reprieve.
It's like we're watching a high-stakes poker game in slow motion.
Oh, yeah, totally. Everyone's holding their cards close to the vest, just waiting to see what the next move's going to be.
And you can feel that tension. Like ByteDance wants to keep their spot in the U.S. market. Perplexity sees a chance to like jump to the top of the AI world. Kevin O'Leary senses a money-making opportunity. And the U.S. government's just trying to like balance national security with what millions of users want.
And let's not forget about those users. What does all of this mean for the millions of people who use TikTok every day to connect, create, and build their businesses?
Yeah, that's the human side of this story, which can be easy to forget amongst all the corporate and political stuff.
Exactly.
So we've laid out the playing field. We've got the players, the stakes, and the potential moves. Now let's dig a little deeper into this proposed merger and see what it could really mean for ByteDance, for Perplexity, and for all those businesses that have come to rely on the TikTok platform.
So for ByteDance, this merger could really be a lifeline, you know? It lets them keep some control over TikTok's US operations instead of like a complete shutdown or having to sell it off completely and losing their ties to the American market. But it's definitely not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's not just about merging two companies, right? It's about blending two totally different cultures. I mean, you've got this like Silicon Valley startup known for its tech. And then you've got this Chinese tech giant that's become a global phenomenon with its own way of doing things, like with content and community.
And don't forget the regulatory scrutiny. Like every step of this merger is going to be under a microscope. If they can't convince regulators that those national security concerns are addressed, the whole thing could just fall apart.
So it's risky for ByteDance,
Hmm.
but it might be their best bet to salvage their U.S. operations. What about Perplexity, though? What's their incentive here?
Well, for Perplexity, it's a chance to make a huge jump. I mean, imagine going from a pretty unknown startup to suddenly having access to like hundreds of millions of TikTok users. We're talking instant brand recognition, a massive amount of data to train their AI on, and a platform to launch all sorts of new features and services.
It's like they're getting a fast pass to the top. But wouldn't that be a huge culture clash for them, too? I mean, there's this small, agile startup. How do they merge with something as huge as TikTok and not lose themselves in the process?
It's a good point. It could definitely lead to some friction trying to integrate two companies that work so differently. But if they can make it work, the payoff could be huge. Think about the potential for innovation. Pushing the boundaries of AI and video content, it could be revolutionary.
Okay, so we've talked about what ByteDance and Perplexity stand to gain. But what about the businesses that use TikTok? What happens to them if this merger goes through?
That's really important. There are millions of businesses out there, from tiny startups to big global brands that have built their whole marketing strategy around TikTok. They use it to connect with customers, build brand awareness, and make sales. So this merger could create a lot of new opportunities, but also some challenges for them.
Like what? Give me some specifics. How could this change things for them on a day-to-day basis?
Well, just imagine TikTok's algorithm, but it's powered by Perplexity's AI. Businesses could have much more targeted ads, maybe even reaching super specific niche audiences. Content recommendations could be even more personalized, leading to higher engagement rates.
So it sounds like advertisers would have a lot to gain.
Absolutely. But there's also a chance for some disruption. If the platform changes a lot, businesses might need to adapt their strategies, rethink their content, and figure out how to use a whole new set of tools and features.
So it's kind of a mixed bag for businesses then. Some could really benefit while others might have trouble keeping up. It all comes down to how this merger plays out and how well both companies explain these changes to their users and partners.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the uncertainty that's still hanging over everything. The ban hasn't gone away. If regulators aren't satisfied by this merger, or if President-elect Trump decides to enforce the ban, everything could change in an instant.
It's like everything's constantly in motion. Which is tough for businesses that are trying to plan for the future. They need things to be stable,
Yeah.
predictable,
Yeah.
and right now they don't have any of that.
That's why this 90-day reprieve that people are talking about could be so important. It would give everyone a chance to breathe, to come up with a plan and hopefully find a solution that works for everyone involved.
Yeah, it would definitely buy them some time. But it also keeps everyone on edge, wondering what's going to happen next.
Totally.
It's like a game of chicken with the future of TikTok and all these businesses that depend on it hanging in the balance. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's just one app, and it's causing all this tension and uncertainty. Governments are worried about national security. Businesses are freaking out trying to figure out what to do, and millions of users are stuck in the middle.
It really shows you how much power social media has these days. TikTok's not just about entertainment anymore. It's part of our culture. It's a marketplace, a news source, even a political battleground. And what happens to it is connected to so many things, like the future of AI, the whole global tech landscape, and that balance between keeping things secure and letting people say what they want online.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to think about. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if TikTok actually just shuts down? Like no deal happens and the ban goes through.
Oh man, that would be huge. Think about all those users suddenly losing their accounts. All that content, all those communities gone. It would leave a pretty big hole, especially for younger people. You know, ones who grew up with TikTok as their main online space.
And what about all the businesses that use TikTok to market themselves and sell their products? What happens to them?
It would be a big shock to the system for sure. You've got all these companies that built their whole brand around TikTok. Using challenges, influencer partnerships, viral trends, they'd have to scramble to find new ways to reach their audience. Maybe try Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, it would be a mad dash to adapt. And some businesses would have a harder time than others. The ones that went all in on TikTok could lose a lot.
Exactly. It shows you that you can't rely on just one platform, especially one that's getting this much attention from the government. This whole situation is a warning for businesses. They need to spread out their digital strategy and be ready for anything.
So it's not just about losing a platform, right? It's about losing a connection with a whole generation of customers, losing money, and maybe even missing out on innovation.
For sure. And someone else would step in to fill that void. We could see a bunch of new apps, new features, new marketing strategies, all trying to grab those TikTok users.
That would definitely shake things up. So as we wrap things up, what are the big takeaways you think people should remember from this whole situation?
Well, I think the first one is that tech, politics, and business are all connected. What happens in Washington affects the apps we use, what we see online, how we connect with each other.
It's a good reminder that the internet isn't a free-for-all. It has rules, and governments can change those rules, and that can have a big impact on everyone.
And the second takeaway is that businesses need to have a backup plan. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, even if it seems like a sure thing. Being on multiple platforms, trying new things, and being able to adapt is crucial in this crazy online world.
And I think this whole story shows us that the internet is still evolving. We're all figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, that's what makes it so interesting.
So to everyone listening out there, remember, the future of TikTok might be up in the air, but the lessons we're learning from this are important for everyone. Stay curious, stay adaptable, keep exploring. That's what makes this whole digital journey so exciting.